Hey guys, welcome back. So we are back on the GT100 2016 Mustang with an F100 body swapped on top. Where did I leave you guys off last episode? If you didn't see, we got some new hinges, a little bit better, mounted those into the cowl. Have a little bit more work to do with that. We built some really overkill seat brackets, but I was having fun with the tube bender, got that in, ran out of tube. We still need to do that side, which brings me to my next point is let's continue on with the tube stuff. What do we need to do with the cage? I do want to build a cage on the interior here. One, we need a seatbelt harness bar. Two, I want to tie in this rear subframe structure we kind of built into the front and kind of tie together the cab and the unibody as much as I possibly can. Here's the plan. Pull the seats out, pull the console out so we can kind of get to work in here. We're gonna build a B-pillar bar, which is basically this B-pillar on the truck. We're gonna build that to run up and just the height of the seatbelt bar. I don't wanna have this massive cage structure that goes all the way up in the top of the cab and you have a big halo hoop here and an A-pillar and all this stuff, because then I'm gonna have this massive cage structure in the truck. That is not what I want. This isn't going to be a race truck. It doesn't have to be spec'd for drag racing or certed for a certain amount of time or anything like that. I just want to make it as rigid as possible and have it as safe as possible. Here's the plan. We're not gonna run a big B pillar hoop. We're just gonna run the B pillar right to where I need my seatbelt harness. So generally speaking, that's about coming off the back of my shoulders. So if I'm sitting in the seat, I want the harness bar to be level or 10 degrees slightly sloped down. That applies the proper pressures. If you do get in an accident, your seatbelt doesn't get all wonky and pull you and hurt your back and stuff. Let's build a seatbelt bar, B-pillar hoop that is that height. Then we are going to tie in this rear structure. We'll run diagonals into that seatbelt bar. We built here and then a diagonal here into this corner. And then we are going to run a door bar, which will go from the B-pillar again. We'll see if we can kind of fit the contours of the seat so I'm not having to step over this huge tube and everything to get in the seat. Again, I want to make this user friendly. It's a street truck. We're going to rip on it. We're going to do races and stuff. I don't want to have this big structure that I got to get in and out of like I'm climbing in a jungle gym. We'll go off the B pillar. We'll do a door bar that will come down and attach to the floor down here. Obviously, I think you want some tangents that triangulated all your tube structures. I want the door bar here and where this rear substructure ties into the B pillar. I want that to kind of meet at the same place. We'll see if we can do that. We'll work through it. Let's get cracking. Bend some tube, get the tube bender outside, and start bending up some tube. All right, boys, quick update. We got the B-pillar roughly bent. Fitted in, it's really tight right to the Mustang tub. If you guys can see on the bottoms, it's right against the floor pan of the Mustang. Did that kind of by intention, so generally you're gonna get spring back, which means if I'm bending a 90, which are what these radiuses are up at the top, I need to cut down these legs too. It's gonna get some spring back. I just bent it to 91 degrees instead of generally spring back. You kind of got to calculate, and I think it was about 93 to get a full 90 because the tube bender will spring back and you lose a couple degrees. I always want to creep in on that stuff. I left these clamp blocks up here. If you guys can see up there, these clamp blocks are left in place. So all the orientation is still intact. Did 91, knew it was going to be a little less of a 90. I probably, bent it at 88 or 89. And it's pushing those legs out a little bit. Obviously we're going to trim them down, so this B-pillar is just at the harness location, not all the way up in the cab, but we'll fit this in. Let's go back to the bender. We'll bend it to 93 instead of 91, add 2 more degrees, and that should square it up. We'll measure the height, cut these legs down, see how it matches then. And we can still have enough space on these legs to throw it back in. I won't pull the blocks off till I know it's perfect, so let's get it. She looks pretty good. some clearance up here. Obviously the blocks are in the way, but we don't want to pull these off till we know our angles don't need to be adjusted at all. Overall though, I'm pretty happy with what we got here. All right, well, I don't know if you guys can see in here. Let me squeeze in the camera. Whoa. Looks pretty good. We've got about 1 inch of clearance between the tubs here and this downward pipe, which is what I wanted. We've got a bunch of seam sealant we got to get off so we can weld these plates into the floor pan. They do have some interference up here. There's a seam. Let me get you guys off of here real quick. Bars in, we've got good clearance. There's about 1 inch on each side. Once we adjust it, the height's just right. I wanted it just above this lip. It's not pushed back quite as far. These blocks are in the way and this bar is hitting this lip. This old bracket that runs laterally here was what the old gas tank in the F100 was fixed to. They were behind the seats on these old trucks. I'm gonna grind this off. We'll cut this off, smooth it down. I'm gonna cut little pockets in here so the tube can go all the way back, because this is gonna have interference with the seat. I want to move the seats back as far as possible, so I'll move this bar back to where I'm within like 1/8 of an inch before we final weld it here. But overall height is perfect. Let's clearance this, and we can keep moving on. All right, so we're mounting this B pillar here. We need to get our plates. We got some 3/16 plates we're gonna mount in here. You can see over here, I kind of ground down all of the seam sealant and sound deadener. I hate that stuff. So, man, I love fabricating, building stuff out of metal. Takes a while, kind of get a cool project at the end of it, something you created, but seam sealer, sound deadener, they suck. I know you can put dry ice on it and let it sit and chip and crack it off and everything, but because I just got to clean around this plate because we're going to weld it to the floor, it's just easier to use the old grinder, use the old wire wheel, or even get a flap disc. So let's knock out this, clean this up so we can get this bar placement 100%. All right, so we got the B pillar fit in. We want to get it pushed back as far as we can in the cab so it doesn't interfere with the back of the seat. I think it's nice. We've had to cut down in here, this here, but we got it pushed back now. It's nice and level. I have to leave a little bit of a gap. I can't push this bar all the way against the back because obviously we have to run seat belt harnesses down and wrap around this bar. That's the whole purpose of the bar. I think we're good right now for fitment. I can slide the seat all the way back and then it rests up against the bar. Next step is we need to tie in this rear structure. We're gonna run a bar kitty corner here, triangulate it up there, and then lastly we'll run a seat belt bar from this down into the floor right here, and we're gonna try to fit the contour of that seat. Let's take a look at that and we'll keep chipping away at her. All right guys, we're fitting that B pillar. It was funny, Bo, my son, was out here. He wanted to take a sandwich break, so I obliged and came inside to go make him a sandwich. You guys gotta check out what we got going here. Bo, what are you doing? Were you having a party? So he's got the chair set up, Peanut Butter Jelly Time playing on Alexa, and he's out here jumping on the trampoline. This dude cracks me up. Woo! You having a party? You're a goofball. Dude cracks me up. So, little sandwich. A little break, so let's get back to this B pillar. in the back working on tying in this rear tube structure into the B-pillar that we just did right up here. Tacked in the B-pillar. Obviously all the tube back here is going to just be tacked, and I'm gonna have to pull it all out, paint it. When I paint the cab, all it's gonna have to come back out, final weld it, and then paint. So what we kind of got working with here, I have this magnetic holder. It's holding the correct angle. I'm going to use this guy to kind of get my coping pattern, and I'm using a little laser light at the end of my tube. I run it in. If you can see, I don't know if it shows up on camera, but there should be, it's intersecting right with that B-pillar on the passenger side, right in the middle with the laser light. You can see that. So that's kind of how I align it. So what we'll do, we'll pull the tube out. We cut to length, a little bit long. I'll position it here, measure the cope here with some of these tools, make sure we're aligned straight at that pipe, and then we will cut and cope and tack these in here, and then we'll run a diagonal. Oh, dang it, I gotta plug it in again. Plug in that saw so I can cut this tube with my tube cutter. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna grind it down. Oh, you got your cutter? That sounds sweet. Okay, plug your ears, Bo.
Huh?
Plug your ears. All right, so we got this bar here tacked in, running across up there, tacked in over there, tacked in here. Here's the piece we have cut in, rough cut. We're gonna fit it diagonal and then tie it into this crossbar here. What's up, bud?
My four-wheeler can do a wheelie.
Dude, really? That is sweet. So we got the setup. We're gonna get the old, if you can see the laser light here on the end of the tube. We'll come over just kind of like we did before, fit her in on this, and I'll probably laser it right to the middle of this tube, and then we'll go off of that into that tube. Let's keep cracking away at her. All right, guys, quick update. It is a new day. We finished up the rear structure, tying in this rear structure we built out of 1 3/4 into the B-pillar. So we've got these diagonals, everything's just tacked in. We're gonna have to pull everything apart, clean it up, and then paint it, and then fully weld it. Had to take a break yesterday. Had some issues with the saw. I ruined 2 pieces of tube trying to cut those diagonals. I was getting frustrated, didn't lock it down, and you can see this weird little diagonal chunked pattern on the tubes, and I shot the tube halfway across the street into my neighbor's yard. So decided to take a break, do some kid stuff, and get back at it today. So we got the rear structure in. It's looking good. Everything's tacked in, looks symmetrical. It's gonna add a lot of strength, this rear subframe connection into the B-pillar. And then I wanna tie the B-pillar down into the floor down here. So what we're kind of working with is I want to link off of obviously where the pipes run in. So you can see this is running in right here. So we're gonna start here with the tube and we're going to try to follow the contour of the seat here, and I think about right here underneath the seat. I was thinking maybe all the way down, but I think I like it up here better for side impact type stuff, a little bit higher, kind of where your hips at, and then we'll run it all the way down and run it into the seat. So we got to kick this out a little bit to clear the seat, and then it'll kick down into the floor here. All of that combination with the tubes, it'll be good. We'll have a good seatbelt harness with that B-pillar. The rear will be tied into that B-pillar. B-pillar is going to be tied in the front. I think that's going to be pretty good structure and rigidity. Probably a lot more than the Mustang, or for sure the unibody truck had back in the day. So let's keep chipping away at that. Bend up those door bars. All right, guys, well, the tube building fiasco is done. All the tube, the large 1 3/4, 1 inch stuff that we're gonna put in this truck is in. So let's take a look and see what we got. Pulled her out. So first, the two main things we kind of wanted to work on were tying in this rear IRS, where the rear independent suspension is all in here. A lot of structure. This little rear subframe section here was built, tied into the shock towers. Ran 1 3/4 crossbar to kind of tie this back section into the front. So we did crossbar 1 3/4. Everything is just tacked in place, not painted. You can see down here, it's tied into the B-pillar, which runs up and just under the cab here. I didn't want to have this huge structure in the cab, so it turned out perfect. It's exactly what I wanted, where it's going to have a lot of rigidity. We're going to have a seatbelt harness running out the back of the Corbeau seats, perfect height, and it's not super intrusive in the cabin. So this rear structure ties into the B-pillar. If we take a look over here, the B-pillar, you guys can see, I'll pull this seat out, but I wanted to show you the clearances. So the B-pillar runs around, runs down into the floor, and then we did another little structural cross section here that tied into this door bar. Door bar runs up into the B-pillar and then down into the floor right here, how you can see. So it looks really good, not intrusive, not cumbersome, really safe, perfect height for my harness. It's straight out my shoulders. It's either, should be 0 degrees or down to 20. So it's right at about 0 or 10 degrees. It looks really good. Let me show you the other side here. Old Coyote's looking good. Got the 6-piston Brembos, 15-inch rotors. Definitely a little dirty. So here's how it kind of looks with the seat. Got the Corbeaus in there, the door bar. I didn't want this door bar way up where I'd have to step over it, and I felt like I was getting in a jungle gym. I want to have a good cage in here, but nothing that has to be built to spec for drag racing or anything like that. So it's not intrusive. It's nice and low down by the seat brackets we built down here. Runs into the front of the A-pillar kind of with the Mustang unibody setup, and then here you can see the B-pillar. That door bar ties into it. B-pillar runs across into here, and then through the back side right there is that cross section that connects in here. So I think that's going to add a lot of rigidity. One more thing I want to do, which is I want to put the carpet in it. I don't know why. I've got the Mustang carpet here. I want to get this in and kind of see how it fits into the console. Let's pull the seat out. You can see I kind of mocked up. These were the gauges. You got a oil pressure gauge right here, and the second one is a boost reference. So this is naturally aspirated Coyote 2nd gen, but you know, maybe if we put a roots blower on it, I don't know. I think that'd be pretty cool. We'll see. That would come into use. Let's get this carpet in. We'll run it in here. We're gonna have to pull the seats out. We're gonna have to pull the brackets out for the seats, and we're gonna have to pull all the console out, all this stuff out, lay the carpet down and put it down on it. I wanna see how the carpet fits up into the console up in here, because you can see we got a lot of gaps and stuff, and I just wanna see where the carpet kind of blends up into that console. I'm thinking to get some structural foam that's used for like carbon fiber composites and building stuff like that, and we'll just shave it down and sand it and contour everything. But I want to see where that carpet looks on that console first, so let's do that real quick. All right, got the seat in. Door bar fits nice. Man, that looks pretty dang sweet. I'm happy with that. I think it's gonna be fun to drive. Obviously, we still have the old steering wheel. We're gonna put a Ford Racing nice steering wheel. All these controls for the switches that we are gonna use, I'll rewire it, run it down to the switch panel, which will mount on that side. Still gotta build that bracket. Gotta run some more wiring down for those gauges down here. But overall, fitment's coming together really nice. I'm super happy with it. So this thing is gonna be a handful to drive. A lot of fun, super unique truck. So she is looking pretty snazzy. All of the tube work is pretty much done back here. So we got to final weld it. We'll paint it up, use some steel it. A little bit more to do, odds and ends, so we're gonna keep cracking away at her. As always, thanks everybody for liking, subscribing, commenting. If you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and as always, God bless and long live hot rodding.